this has to be one of the best films of 2015.
You know what? I'm pissed off.
American people
We're getting screwed by the big banks.
and I am getting madder and madder.
It's unbelievable.
Then this guy walks into my office and says,
There's some shady stuff going down.
Triple B's. 0.
what is that?
That's America's housing market.
Okay, hey guys, welcome to a new episode of AB in the Films. I just saw The Big Short for the 5th time. The 5th time. And I completely love every minute of this movie. This is one of those movies where the script is smart, the characters are smart and interesting. The entire story is set up in a way that the best way I can describe it is it's one terrific scene after another. There is not a moment in this entire movie where you're checking your watch. There is not a moment where you're bored. There isn't. And if you are bored, they find a way to make it interesting. Okay, I just want to let you know, this review is going to have a ton of spoilers because I have to talk about the scenes in this movie because the scenes are really what make this movie work. How well they are, and I have to talk about that. So, spoiler alert if you haven't seen this movie yet. Go see the movie and then come back and watch this. Okay, the story of The Big Short, it's based on the novel, and which is based on a true story. The housing market economic crisis of 2008. And we learn really what was going on at that time, because I remember when this happened, okay? I remember. My family didn't suffer any big losses that much, but I know many other people did. Many other people did. And I just didn't know that what was going on behind the scenes of this whole crisis was this bad. I had no idea it was that bad. I knew it was a bad and a scary time for people, but I didn't know it was that big of a crisis. I had no idea this was like 1929, 1930 all over again. I did not see that. I didn't. And so did many other people not see that coming, but these people did, and that's what makes it interesting. So, the movie is about these 4 main actors. There's actually more than 4 people. I don't know why they're saying... Well, they're giving Christian Bale, Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, and Brad Pitt top star when you see their names on it. But there's actually a lot more people involved in this that should get credited. So these 4 guys are betting against the economy when it crashes. And, of course, the banks look at them like they've lost their frickin' minds. Because the banks are pretty positive that the housing market is rock solid. It'll never collapse. It'll never fall down. So, Ryan Gosling plays Jared Vennett, I think his name is, and he plays a... he says he works for the bank, but I don't know. He talks more like a Wall Street guy to me. He's a very fast, smooth-talking guy, you know what I mean? But he basically finds out about that the market could collapse in 2005, and he tells this to Steve Carell's character, Mark Baum, and his team of people on Wall Street, and he tells them what's going to happen. And also Christian Bale plays Dr. Michael J. Burry, and he's a guy who is on Wall Street, I think. He's giving out funds to people, I believe, and he notices that the stock market is going to collapse. It's going to start collapsing in the second quarter of 07. And he's trying to alert everybody that when this happens, you know, I want to make some money off this. I want to bet against the economy because I know I'm going to win. And that's exactly what they do. That's what these people are doing. So they're doing this, and everybody thinks they're crazy. Everybody thinks they're insane. In fact, Ryan Gosling plays the narrator of this movie. He's basically narrating the movie at the beginning. He explains, and he actually talks to us as if we're there in the room. Like 20 minutes into the movie, Christian Bale is trying to, he's betting against the economy. He's going to all these different banks, and he's saying, can we try 1 million? Okay, let's try 2 million. Let's try, because you know he's going to get this money. You know he's going to win it. And then the whole screen will like go to black, and you hear Ryan Gosling say, I notice that you guys are hearing these big terms. Does it seem boring? Does it sound boring? Are you bored? Well, guess what? It's supposed to be boring. You're supposed to be bored. Let's go over here. You know, like I love this way of narrating the story, and the way Adam McKay does this. Now, I want to say something about Adam McKay. I'm not a huge fan of him, okay? I love Anchorman. I like the other guys. I'm sorry. I like that movie. I think it does have funny scenes in it. Is it a great movie? No, but it does have funny moments in it. Step Brothers, same thing. It's not a good movie, but it has funny moments in it. This movie's very different from anything he's ever directed. Like, when I heard Adam McKay was going to do this, I thought this was going to bomb. Because I'm like, Adam McKay, really? The Anchorman guy? I don't know if he can do this. I mean, but I was wrong. He can make it funny. This movie is funny, it's entertaining, it's dramatic, and they explain it to you. Like, okay, you'll have a scene where these guys on Wall Street are having a big discussion about what's going to happen, and they're throwing this terminology out that none of us have ever heard of. Like, nobody really knows what a CDO is. We don't know what a synthetic CDO is. We don't know what a tranche is, or a tranche, however you pronounce it. We don't know what this is. So the scene will happen, and then it'll stop, and then it cuts to Margot Robbie in a bathtub explaining it, or it cuts to Selena Gomez at a blackjack table explaining it, and as they're explaining it, I'm slowly realizing while I'm sitting there, this is bad. This is really, really bad. Okay? And I'll give you an example of how bad it is. One of my favorite scenes, there's so many great scenes in this movie. One scene that I really, really loved is the scene when they all go to Vegas, and Steve Carell plays Mark Baum. He's sitting there with a CDO manager, I think. And Ryan Gosling is sitting with he's sitting with Mark Baum's, men, and he's like, uh-oh, it looks like your boss is going to lose his mind. It looks like he's going to get mad, because he can get mad about anything. Steve Carell has no trouble at telling people that they're wrong. He thrives on that. He loves telling people that they're wrong about stuff. He hates to see people get screwed over. He hates that. That's his character. And he's sitting there with the CDO manager, and he's like, and he's basically trying to explain what's going on here, because they're looking into this to see if Ryan Gosling over here is right about the economy crashing. So he's like, okay, let me understand something. The bank calls you up. They're going to give you the money for this and this. How does this all work out? And he goes, wait, hold on a minute, hold on. And Carell's like, so you're going to take parts of CDO A and parts of CDO B, converse that with CDO A, and then take it all together and put it into CDO C. And the guy says, yes, Mr. Baum, that's what we do. It's called a CDO square, because it's CDO and a CDO. We call it a synthetic CDO. And he's like, synthetic CDOs? That is fucking crazy. Are you fucking insane? And and I'm laughing so hard to that, because, it's Steve Carell. But then, they start explaining it. And it starts to dawn on me, that makes a lot of sense. That's why the housing market was going up and up and up and up, and nobody thought that it would come down, because everybody was under the illusion that it couldn't come down, because it's rock solid. Nothing could happen to it. Nothing's going to happen. But what was going on was, as best as I can describe it, the banks were selling. Here's the thing. By the time the banks were running out of mortgages to sell, they started selling mortgages that were worth shit. And they were taking that and combining it with other mortgages that didn't make anything and making that into one pile and selling that to people. Nobody's going to afford to pay that off. And everybody is saying, like when Christian Bale's going around trying to bet against the economy, everyone is saying the only way the economy could collapse is if millions of people don't pay their mortgages. Well, the banks are setting that up to happen. Nobody can afford to pay that. Nobody can. And it's going up and up and up, and everybody's betting on it. Everybody thinks that, you know, your odds are pretty good. It's going to work out. It's going to be okay. And it wasn't. It's not going to be okay. And now, we all know the ending of this movie. We all know what's going to happen, but getting there is what's interesting. It's kind of like Titanic. We know the ship is going to sink at the end, but how does it get there? That's what makes it an interesting movie. It's the same thing with The Big Short. There's actually a subplot going on. These two young guys, Charlie and Jamie, I forget the actors' names, but these guys did a really good job. I liked it when they were on screen. They want to go in, and they're young guys, and they want to get into the world of investing or the banks or whatever, and they're trying to get an ISDA, I-S-D-A, and I think if I remember, because I've seen this movie 5 times, I do remember a lot, I think what that means is, I think it's, because something else I should mention in this movie, when they throw a big term out there that not a lot of people know, the movie will freeze frame and it'll have like the definition at the bottom so you can understand what they're talking about here. They're trying to get an ISDA, and I forget what it stands for, but what that is they basically want to get up to the big boy table so they can make really smart decisions. And then it says, trying to get that is like trying to win the Indy 500 while riding a llama. So they find out about this crisis that is going to happen in a couple of years, and they decide to call up this guy who used to be a banker. He's not a banker anymore. This guy's name is Ben Rickard, played by Brad Pitt, and he's actually pretty good in this too. He's done with the world of banking. He doesn't like it. You know, it's killing the inside of him. Like he's one of these guys that's growing a garden. You know what I mean? Like he's convinced that not only is the economy going to collapse, but the whole world is going down, and he doesn't want any part of that. He doesn't. And I really got invested in his character. I wish they would have showed more of him. And when they do, it's really interesting. I mean, like, Brad Pitt's really good in this. Everybody's great in this movie. There's a couple of other scenes I want to talk about. There's a scene towards the end when Steve Carell realizes that things are bad. It's like the middle of 2007 at this point, and it's starting to go down. It's just starting to. It hasn't crashed yet, but it's starting to go down. He goes into, I think one of the people that runs the business with him, her name is Kathy, and he goes in there and he says, Kathy, what is going on here? You tell me everything is fine. Everything is not fine. What's going on here? How bad is this? And she goes, I can't tell you the numbers. And he's like, yes, you can, and you're going to have to, because I walk in here and there are people in your hallway calling up their loved ones and crying. Tell me what's going on. Is it 3 billion? And she's like, and it cuts back to Mark, and he's like, please don't tell me it's up to 4. Don't tell me it's that. And she goes, it's 15 billion. I had the same look as Carell in this scene. I'm thinking to myself, Jesus Christ, man. Like, it's so bad. This is terrible. And getting back to what the banks were doing, okay? And Steve Carell says all this in the movie, and it's so true. It makes total sense. The banks, they didn't care. They didn't care. They knew there was going to be a bailout. They knew the taxpayers were going to pay for all this. The banks were selling them shitty mortgages. They knew the taxpayers were never going to be able to pay this off. The taxpayers ended up paying for this. That's why everybody lost pension. Everybody lost retirement savings. The 401ks, the bonds, everything was gone. That's why everybody was wondering, where the hell is my money? Why can't I get my money back? That's where it all went. To bail the banks out. That's where it all went. And they knew it was going to happen. They didn't care. They didn't care. As long as they were making money off those mortgages they were selling, they didn't care about it. They didn't care at all. They did not care. And it shows. And another great scene I love, like I said, there's so many great scenes in this movie. There's a scene where Charlie and Jamie, you know, the two young bankers that are working with Brad Pitt, they, when it starts to go down, they go and talk to this guy, this friend of theirs that is a writer for the Wall Street Journal, and they tell him everything. They're like, hey, listen, you know, there's a crisis happening. We got a good hunch here. We got numbers here that prove this. You got to write a piece in this thing and get someone arrested. He's like, I can't do that. And he says, you have to. And they're like, well, what do you want me to do? Just write a piece in the journal entitled, We're All Fucked? And they're like, yes, that's a great title. Use that title. Like, it's funny. There's a lot of funny moments in this. I love the scene where oh, what is it? I'm trying to remember. One of the scenes at the end when Mark, played by Steve Carell, I'm saying it over and over, when he plays this, he has this big speech at the end. And I love this speech that he gives. I love that. He gets up and he's like, Wall Street decided to take a really good idea and turn it into an atomic bomb that's gonna really hurt the American economy. And the guy on the he's the opposing side, but the Wall Street banker guy is like, so how do you really feel, Mr. Baum? And he's like, I'm happy you have a sense of humor, because I wouldn't if I were you. I wouldn't. And he says, now, the reason why I don't like fraud is because it's not, what bothers me is not that fraud is not nice or that it's immoral. What bothers me is that for over 15,000 years, fraud and short-sighted thinking have never ever worked. And, eventually we're going to get caught. Things are going to go down south. When did we forget all that? Like, and this whole scene that he has with these, like, it's great. I love this acting. I love this entire movie. The scene that I mentioned earlier when Ryan Gosling comes in and tells them what's going to happen with the economy, with the Jenga blocks. Like, that's great. I love that scene. The whole scene with Christian Bale, and he's taking a look at the numbers, and the guys are coming in and they're like, so Mike Burry, who gets his hair cut at Supercuts and doesn't wear shoes, knows better than the American government? He's like, well, Dr. Michael Burry, yes he does. And because they know, and in fact, Ryan Gosling has one of the best lines in the entire movie. He says, nobody saw it coming, but these people did, because they did something that no one else in America ever thought to do. They looked. And it's true, all you had to do was look at the numbers. Nobody was paying attention, and if they were, they didn't care. And it shows. And this movie gives you an insight into how this happened and why it happened. And it's all about greed. It's mostly greed. That's what this is. It's mostly greed, and it's a lack of paying attention. That's another line Ryan Gosling has. Nobody's paying attention. Like the script for that. This should be nominated not only for Best Picture, but for Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay. It should at least get the nomination for that. I thought Steve Carell and Ryan Gosling and Christian Bale, all four of them were fantastic in this movie. The movie ends with When the Levee Breaks, the original Led Zeppelin master, to which my surprise was, yeah, that's a good song, it describes everything, but you gotta figure at least a quarter of the budget for this movie went to getting that song, because, man, that must have cost them a fortune to get that song in this movie. And they play the whole song throughout the credits. I encourage everybody to go see this movie. If you think this is another movie where they're just throwing out terminology that you don't understand and it's going to be boring, it's not boring. It is not. Watch this movie. Give it some time. You will completely 100% enjoy this movie. I've seen it 5 times. I'm probably going to go see it again because I love it that much. Let me tell you something. If Furious 7 didn't come out in 2015, this probably would be one of my favorites. It is one of my favorites. No, it is. It is one of my favorites. I love this movie. I loved it. I can't think of anything else to say about it. I've gone on long enough about it. You guys go see it, because I've ruined a lot of scenes for you already if you haven't seen it. But still see it. Definitely check it out. There's many other great scenes in this movie I haven't ruined for you guys. I haven't said anything about it. I'm just telling you the ones that stand out to me. So, I love The Big Short. I hope you guys go see it. I hope you guys like it. And I will see you guys in the next review. Later.